on watching that video of how many people wore hats in those days. You know, I mean, it's incredible. You know, I mean, that must have been a pretty good business in those days. Okay? 'Cause everybody wore a hat, right? And it does remind me of a story. Some of you might remember Charlie Wagner. This is a little different story than one of the ones I told, although I'll tell that one story because I know Randy wants me to tell it. But Charlie Wagner, over 60 years with the Red Sox organization, roomed with Ted Williams for a number of years. And when I think of all those guys in Fenway Park, and after the game would walk down to Kenmore Square and get on the trolley and go to their different various homes. And of course, Charlie lived off of Commonwealth Avenue when he was with the Red Sox. And he told this story. It's a true story. And it's kind of funny because I think when I tell it, you can understand why it could happen. Charlie was at the end of his career. And he was pitching a game at Fenway Park. And, you know, he had a bad day, got knocked out in about the 4th or 5th inning. And he kind of knew it was the end. You know, it was the end. And so he was a little bit dejected. And the game was over. He got dressed. And they always called him Broadway Charlie because he always wore a sport coat, no matter how hot it was, okay, with a handkerchief, you know, always looked dapper, looked a little bit like Gregory Peck, hair completely in place, not a hair out of line. And so he walks down to Kenmore Square to get on the trolley, feeling like, you know, it's like the end, right? So he gets on there and he sits down, and well, people are coming in, you know, the trolley from the ball game and stuff like that. And this guy sits down beside Charlie. And he's just sitting there and he looks over at Charlie and he says to Charlie, he says, you at the game today? And Charlie says, yeah, I was at the game today. He says, Wagner stinks. He says, why is he still playing? He can't pitch anymore. So Charlie said, well, yeah, he had kind of a bad day. He says, you know, oh, no. You know, he's going through and they're going to different stops, and this guy is just ripping Charlie up and down. You know? And Charlie's trying to appease him and had a bad day, etc. So now it's Charlie's stop. You know, Charlie stops. So Charlie said, gee, he says, this is my stop. I've got to go. So the guy says, hey, you know, I enjoyed talking to you. You know a lot about baseball. What's your name? And he says, Charlie Wagner. And now, as Charlie's leaving, the guy's he's mumbling, trying to apologize as the trolley's towards the closing. Here's this guy just mumbling all kinds of apologies, and Charlie's just waving as the trolley's taking off down the rest of the thing. So you can imagine, because most people don't recognize players when they're not in a uniform, you know. And Charlie being Charlie, you know, just, you know, the gentleman that he always was, just, you know, just try to appease him. And it's just one of the great stories. As I was telling these gentlemen today, I think baseball, of all the major sports, has the best stories and characters of all the professional sports, okay, over the years, you know. But I certainly want to thank certainly Russ and Randy for inviting me, and really, you know, I was, you know, honored and privileged to come down here, and I wouldn't miss it because of the fact that I've known Russ for so many years. And I can remember when Charlie Wagner picked me up in 1968 at the airport and drove me to the ballpark. I can always remember that day. It was my first day. We had Frank Malzone here as an instructor and Sam Mealy as an instructor, and of course Charlie Wagner, along with Jackie Moore. And they were so good to me here, and I couldn't be my family right away because the job came quite quickly because I decided not to go back with the Yankees. They wanted me to go full-time, and I was teaching and coaching, and I didn't think I wanted to make that kind of decision, so I was fortunate to get a job coaching here. They helped me find a place, and I never forget the first place. And I had to find a place, and then my family was going to come up. And I found this trailer out at Lake Chautauqua, a little small trailer, and it was an elderly couple that owned it. It was beautiful out there. It was a trailer like in the middle of nowhere, you know, and the lake was down, and it was really small. It was my wife and my two young children, Steve and Rick. And the trailer was so small, this is going to sound like a joke, you know. It was so small that when you sat in the toilet, your feet were in the shower. Which is true. There was a shower over there. There was no room, and there was one little bedroom and a couch pull-out, and a little kitchenette and a little refrigerator, but you couldn't stand up in the kitchen. The kids could because they were small, but we had to go in there and sit down. But you know something? It was really beautiful out there, and the elderly couple loved my two sons, who were small at the time. took them fishing, and they went swimming, and every day, Kathy and the kids would drive me to the ballpark. Then she'd go back, and then they'd come back for the game, and then we'd go back out there, and that was great. And the next 2 years, we stayed out at the dorms, and which was close. You could walk to the park, so that was neat. But we didn't make a lot of money in those days, and I was telling them it was kind of unusual because my wife and I stayed at the dorms, and we painted the dorms that summer to save some money on the rent. So we'd be painting, my wife and I, the walls and all the dorms, and then I'd wash up and go to the ballpark and for the game. And we did that all the summer, and we saved a few dollars in our rent money because we worked, and things like that. And Eric Gogan and Martha were wonderful people, and I really enjoyed it here. The people were great, so I was delighted to be able to come back here and see some friends down there, that were at the ballpark. And when I left here, I went to Williamsport to manage, so I kept coming back because we were playing the Jamestown team. So it was really great. It was so much fun to be here and do things like that. But as far as baseball goes, this is my 55th consecutive year in baseball. 1958 is when I started. I signed after the College World Series out in Omaha, Nebraska, and went to Modesto, California. My induction into professional baseball was, an 8-hour trip from Boston to Modesto, California, in a Harris tweed sport coat, which is the only sport coat I owned. And I got off the plane, it was 95 degrees. The general manager, who I remember was named Jerry Pepperless, greeted me and says, come on, we're going to take you to the ballpark and meet the manager. We got a game in Stockton. Now, I only had a little food on the plane. I was starving, So I go with him. I meet Dee Phillips, who was a player coach at the time. Meet the trainer, get my uniform. Now I got to jump in the station wagon. The players drove the station wagons in those days. We had about 5 or 6 kids that we drove. So I drove to Stockton, and I was in the lineup playing center field. Okay, played the game, went 2 for 4, and then ate about 5 hot dogs at the concession stand. That was my introduction to baseball. So I'm glad I got 2 for 4 because I went 0 for 4. I would have been very discouraged. Right? And then we went from there. But I've had a wonderful opportunity to manage a lot of really young players, and I managed mostly first-year players. And first year is the toughest year for players because of getting adjusted to playing every day. And the thing about it is, what players don't realize, and I think some fans don't realize, all the players that come to the New York Penn League from high school or college were stars wherever they played. And they probably didn't play against a lot of stars on all the teams they played. They were stars, and there was maybe 1 or 2 stars in the other teams. So now they come here, and all the players on all the other teams were stars where they came from. Okay, so you might have a pitcher who never pitched from the stretch in high school. Now all of a sudden he's pitching from the stretch because he's getting hit, or maybe he gets knocked out in the 4th inning. All right, or somebody who has a lifetime batting average in high school or college of 450. And now after 3 weeks, he's hitting about 230, And these are the things as a manager you have to kind of get them through because, it's hard when you leave home and everybody expects you to do well, and then you go home and they say, what are you hitting? 250. 250? What are you doing? You messing around? Staying out late? You seeing girls? All those questions you got to answer, And no, I'm getting adjusted, things of that nature. I can remember Bruce Hurst. Bruce Hurst is a Mormon. I'm sure he's going to vote for Romney. Okay? And he was 17 years old, and he knocked on my door. We put the players at Elmira College. And he said, Skip, I got to talk to you. I said, sure. I said, come on in. He said, I don't think I like baseball. Now, he was the #1 draft choice. So I'm thinking, well, let's see. He's the #1 draft choice. We gave him a lot of money. He wants to go home. My career may be over. My career may be over. He said, well, and of course, Bruce didn't drink. He didn't curse. He didn't go with girls. So, some people in baseball drink and curse and swear. Okay? And so so we sat for, God, it must have been almost 2 hours. He wanted to go home and become a Mormon minister. And I said, look, I said, Bruce, I said, stick it out for a while. I said, you know, you can be a great role model in baseball. You can get to the big leagues, you have a great arm and a great curveball. You can make yourself a lot of money. You can do a lot of help. If you don't like it after 3-4 years, you're still only going to be like 21 years of age, you know, then do it, you know. So he decided to stay, and he pitched well. Pitched a couple of real key ball games on the straight stay. We actually had a great team. We were 50-20. Wade Boggs was on that team, Bruce Hurst, Glenn Hoffman, shortstop, and Reed Nichols, an outfielder. So we really did well. We were 50-20, and we won both halves of the NYP League. And then I didn't see Bruce for a long time because I never went to spring training. You know, I'd see him when he got to Boston and pitch a little bit. But the one time we went to an anniversary thing, and he brought his wife Holly with him, and he said, Holly, come here, I want you to meet Skip. He saved my career. He saved my career. Come over here. You know, he made me stay in Elmira. You know, so those are the things. You know, as a manager, you have to deal with things like that. You know, kids making adjustments to their first year. You know, Wade Boggs thought I was a maniac. I was a maniac because I told players don't ever steal from anybody. And somebody stole some money, and I had a clubhouse meeting. And for some reason, when I used to get upset, there was a vein on the left side of my neck that used to pop up. And Wade, so I was really upset. You know, I said, whoever, you know, stole that money, if I find out, I'm going to call the front office. I said, we may suspend you, we may release you, there's no excuse for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Wade called his to-be wife, Debbie, and said, I think I made a mistake signing with the Boston Red Sox. She said, why? He says, I think my manager's a maniac. Screaming at us, and things. But things have changed a little bit. You can't really sort of get in players' faces as you might have done a few years back. But I think one of the most enjoyable times that I had was the 100th anniversary. We all get an opportunity to it was emotional, you know, coming out of center field with the theme song from Field of Dreams playing, if some of you saw that. Okay, and then I walked over to third base, I was third base coach, and it was funny because Tony Pena, who was in the big leagues when I was a coach, was with the Yankees, and I went over and we kind of hugged each other over at the Yankee dugout when I was standing on third base, and he maybe has a chance to be the next manager of the Boston Red Sox, although I'm not sure if he will be. That was an emotional day, but the thing that was really great was there were 20 players at that reunion that had started their career with me in either Williamsport or Jamestown or Elmira. And I hadn't seen them for years and years, so it was like a great reunion, all right? And it's like, you know, in baseball, you always remember your first manager. It's just like you always remember your teacher, you know, your first grade teacher, third grade teacher, okay, or whatever. And you always remember little things. Like we were talking about Jim Bouton's book, Ball 4, all right? I played in the Yankee organization one year. We had, at Amarillo, Texas, we had Bouton, myself, Joe Pepitone, Tommy Tress, Phil Linz, and we won the Texas League. We lost in the playoffs. But he wrote a book, as you know, and then he wanted to mention a lot of the players that he played with in the minors, just to get their name in the book. And in the book, he's talking about how in spring training, Ralph Houck had broken up the group into two teams, the morning workout team and the afternoon workout team. And Ralph said that it didn't make any difference what group you worked out with, the morning or afternoon, as far as making his team. Of course, Ralph was lying, obviously. The morning group, Jim said in the book, had Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Elston Howard, Whitey Ford, Yogi Berra, and all these guys. And the afternoon group had a bunch of guys named Dick Berardino. So at the time, I was teaching business law in high school. So I brought, you know, we were talking at that time about libel and slander, you know, the written word, the spoken word. So I brought the book in, and I read that excerpt from the book. And I says, now, do I have grounds to sue for defamation of character? When way in the back of the room, a student who never, ever raised his hand, all of a sudden now raises his hand. And I'm saying, I can't believe who's raised his hand. So I call on him, okay? And he gets up and he says, Mr. B. And he said, you can't sue. I said, why not? He says, because you said if it's the truth, you can't sue. He says, so you must have stunk. Exactly what he said. And I said, you think you're going to pass this class? Oh, it was just one of those funny things. it's just amazing, you know, that things like that can happen. And you know, things have changed obviously over the years with players, and of course I think agents has had a lot to do with it. Obviously because of the fact that you know, players are playing a lot for statistics today, as opposed to playing to win games. You know, the big contract and things of that nature. So they've become a little spoiled and things of that nature. But it's just, you know, I had the great fortune of managing some of these. And I did have the opportunity to go to, in 2005, Wade Boggs invited my wife and I, Kathy, to Cooperstown for, you know, his Hall of Fame induction for 3 days, and that was great. And we played in the golf tournament on Saturday with all the Hall of Famers, so I was, you know, really thrilled. And I got a chance to see Yogi Berra and Whitey Ford, who I happen to know from the Yankee organization. But my golfing partner was Jim Palmer from the Baltimore Orioles, who was a Hall of Famer. So it was an enjoyable day. But the funniest thing that happened was we had a breakfast before we teed off, and everybody's kind of sitting around at tables like this having breakfast. And as you know, Yogi has these yogiisms, as you know, okay? So we're all sitting around talking. All of a sudden, Yogi says, "Hey, guys, I want to tell you something." So when Yogi speaks, everybody just starts talking, you know? He says, "I just wanted to let you know that Aflac commercial that I do," and everybody's kind of nodding, yeah. He says, "I just want to let everybody know that the duck really doesn't talk." And everybody just, you know, with that expression on Yogi's face that you see so many times, you know, he just, you know, everybody's just cracking up like, you know, only Yogi, you know, could say something like that with a straight face and things of that nature. You know, so consequently, you know, players, most of the time, they said the first years were tough years. Wade only hit like 263. In fact, he was inducted into the International League Hall of Fame just recently, and he said, "All my first-year managers over here," he says, he has the distinction of being the only manager I ever played for. I never hit 300, you know? And I told him the only reason he didn't hit 300 was because, see, Wade was superstitious. He used to eat chicken every day. In those days, A-ball, kids eat a lot of McDonald's. So I told him, it's the only reason you didn't hit 300 because at that time, McDonald's didn't have chicken McNuggets. And you're going to laugh about that. But it's amazing how players can improve. He had a great work ethic. And we went to winter meetings that one time. And in the winter meetings, I have all the names of my players, and each manager does, and you go over your player, where he should play next year, and where you can project him for the future. And I had all my statistics down here, and when I talked about Wade, this is exactly what I said. I said, he's a below-average third baseman. He has a below-average arm. He's a below-average runner. He's a below-average hitter with below-average power. So I project him maybe AAA because he's got a great work ethic and he's only 17. Now he's in the Hall of Fame. You know, so I'm a bad evaluator of talent, okay? And he never lets me forget that either. He never lets me forget that, you know, when we talk. And Jim Rice, of course, only hit 6 home runs, hit about 270. But at 17, he was one of the strongest kids I've ever seen, and one of the really good fastball hitters. You can't teach someone to hit a fastball. You can teach him to hit breaking balls, okay? And I was telling him today, showing him where he hit a home run here at the park at right center field, about 3/4 of the way up the right center field light pole, okay, which is about as long, right, as you could ever see a ball hit. But he was a hard worker too. He couldn't hit a curveball with a paddle his first year, but he learned, okay, to hit the breaking ball. So these are the things you work on, but it's great satisfaction to see these kids make the big leagues when you've had them their first year and see how they've succeeded, you know. Obviously some didn't succeed like you thought they would, you know. But you can see sometimes, Kurt Schilling, when I had him in Greensboro in I think it was '87, you could see that he was going to be a major league pitcher, always wanted to stay in the game, never wanted to come out of the ballpark. He was a big pain in the butt to manage, okay, because he never stopped talking all the time, and he still hasn't stopped talking, okay. Sort of talked himself right into bankruptcy, unfortunately. In any case, but you get an opportunity to work with them, and it's a great satisfaction. It's like teaching profession. You see kids grow in your classroom, become better students, go on to have a wonderful life. So I've been very fortunate over these years. I really have. I'm a little worried right now because of the technology that's going on with people and young people especially, as far as communication. They're losing their communication skills. because you know, they're doing texting and everything else, and they're not talking to each other anymore. I was sitting I was at a mall with a table about a little smaller than the tables right here, and there were about 7 young teenagers sitting at the table, and they weren't talking to each other. They were texting. Okay, so I said, I'm going to stand here for a while. I stood for 15 minutes, you know, and I wasn't close to them, this close, you know, to see if someone would talk to each other. So after 15 minutes, I left. They did not talk. I mean, they might have been with texting, you know, you know, but no one was verbal. I wanted to go and say, would someone say something to somebody here? You know, and it was really funny. Bill Cosby, who spoke just recently, was talking about some of the things, you know, with young kids and his grandchildren and stuff like that. And he said at the very, very end of his talk, he said, I'm glad I'm on the way out rather than the way in. And I knew what he meant, you know, because, you know, as you get older, you realize your days are sort of numbered, you know. And so, you know, it's things like that worry me just a little bit. I won't text my grandchildren, and they know it. They have to call me, or we call them. I said, I have to hear your voice. I have to talk to you. I don't want to text. I said, if you don't text me, don't bother texting me. You call me, or I'll call you, and that's it, you know. And I told my sons the same thing, you know. In fact, I told them, I said, you know, when I pass away, at the wake, I said, my casket will be here. You two guys will be standing here texting. And as people come up, you'll go, thanks for coming. Yeah, he was a nice guy. I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for coming. I know, you taught a lot of you. You know, I thought that's what's going to happen. I says, I might wait. You know, etc. But in any event, I don't want to take too much more time, but a couple other stories that I thought were kind of funny stories that I know they want. But these are true. Some of the true stories are funny. I mean, how many here saw Bull Durham?
Yeah.
All right, well, in Bull Durham, there was a scene when Kevin Costner tells the batter what's coming. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Well, that player's name was Paul Devlin. He was my catcher at Lynchburg. He went to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and he was one of about 3 or 4 that were in the movie from the college, all right? So now, I'm managing Lynchburg, and we're going to Durham, and they're having a special showing of Bull Durham. It came out in 1988. And Grady Little, former Red Sox manager, was managing the Durham baseball team at the old Durham Stadium, you know, the old stadium, before they got the new stadium. So we all went, Lynchburg team and Durham Bulls, and we watched the movie. And of course, Paul hits the home run after, you know, Costner tells him. He doesn't speak, he hits the home run. So now we have a doubleheader. We go back to the ball, and of course, all the guys that kidded him on the bus, you know, because at that time, he'd only hit 1 home run that year. And now he hits this home run over the Bulls and right field and everything. And the guys are getting on him. And so Jim Bibby, if you remember Jim Bibby, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, who was my pitching coach, a wonderful, wonderful person. I said, Jim, I got to start Devlin catching the first game. He's all jacked up here, you know what I mean? All that stuff. So the old ballpark, the third base coaching box was like, oh, maybe almost from here, okay, to that table away. All right, so it was real close. So first inning, I think we made the first 2 outs, and then there's a walk, base hit, and an error. And here comes Paul Devlin hitting. So I said to Bibbs, he could hear me, I said, wouldn't it be something if you ever hit a home run after, you know, after seeing that movie and everything, you know? He hits a grand slam home run. True story. Over the Bull, the same exact spot that he hit it in the movie. Now, the whole team is at home plate. You know what I mean? He's got this big smile coming around third base, okay? And that was the only other home run he hit the rest of the year. You know? But it was just one of those things you'd say, something like that can't happen. Can't happen. But just little things you do sometimes. One year we had lost 11 straight games to the only on the Yankees when I was in Elmira. Last game was at Dunn Field. I had a kid by the name of Rob Woodward that was pitching that night. Tony Clary from Binghamton was my trainer. Bill Lemoncelli was my coach. I said, we can't lose 12 straight games to the only on the Yankees. We can't. We got to find a way to win. What are we going to do? Something different. You know, we're going to do something different. We're sitting there and I'm saying, you know, I'm going to have a seance. So Bill looks at me and said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to have a seance. We're going to change this luck. I said, Clary, get over here. come in my office. What? I said, you go to the concession stand, get a Yankee cap, a Yankee t-shirt, and a candle. You bring it down to the clubhouse. After batting practice, we're coming in here, lock the doors. Nobody's allowed in. Why? I said, don't ask me why, just do it. So now, get everybody in there. So I told the guys, all right, guys, sit down. Get this table in the middle, table about as big as that. I said, lock the doors. And he says, guys, Tony, bring the stuff out. He gets the t-shirt, puts it down, he gets the hat, lights the candle. I said, we're going to have a seance here. Bring back victories of old. We can't lose 12 straight games to the Yoni Yankees. And they're all looking at me like, Skip's lost it now. Everybody stand around the table, hold hands, okay? And I started chanting. Bring back victory. Blow up the can, that's it. All right, let's go get him. All right? Rob Woodward pitches a complete game, we win 4-2. All right? Everybody's coming in the after. Oh, all right, yeah. Skip, we gotta do it. I said, it only works once. It only works once. But I mean, you know, those are some of the crazy things you do in baseball. I was telling these guys, Eddie Popowski, for years was with the Red Sox. He was Dick Williams' third base coach. Eddie had some great baseball stories, you know, old school guy. And he told this quick story about, he had a young pitcher pitching, was getting hit real bad. About the third inning, losing about 8-1. Goes out to the mound, take him out of the game. Gets on the mound, you know, with the ball. The kid backs up, he says, Pop, I'm not tired. Pop, I'm not tired, don't take me out. He said, I understand that you're not tired. He said, but your outfield is give me the ball. It's just things like that, you know. But you know, it's kind of closing up, and again, thank you everybody for having me here. I have some strong feelings about some things, obviously, and you know, I was forced to grow up in the 50s, you know, and my parents and my grandparents, you know, all part of the greatest generation, as Tom Brokaw talked a little bit about, you know. You know, no one had a lot of money, no one locked their doors, everybody shared their food. You know, everyone was in a giving mood in those particular days. It was just, you know, just go to the park. We didn't have organized sports, so everybody went down and played ball all afternoon. I knew I had to be home at 5 o'clock after dinner. You could go out, go get an ice cream. As soon as the street lights went on, we had to go home. We knew that, and we did it, you know. We had a lot of fun. You know, and there weren't a lot of, you know, drugs and things around. And I received this email a while back. And I'd just like to conclude by just reading this. It's I think you can, when you hear this on this particular email, it is talking about the drug problem in America. All right, is the title of it. The author is unknown. Okay, but let me read it. It's not very long. It said, the other day, someone at a store in our town read that a drug lab had been found in an old farmhouse in the adjoining county, and he asked me a rhetorical question. Why didn't we have a drug problem when you and I were growing up? I replied, I had a drug problem when I was young. He says, I was drugged to church on Sunday morning. I was drugged to church for weddings and funerals. I was drugged to family reunions and community socials no matter what the weather. I was drugged by my ears when I was disrespectful to adults. I was also drugged to the woodshed when I disobeyed my parents, told a lie, brought home a bad report card, did not speak with respect, spoke ill of a teacher or the preacher, or if I didn't put forth my best effort in everything that was asked of me. I was drugged to the kitchen sink to have my mouth washed up with soap if I uttered a profound four-letter word. I was drugged to the homes of family, friends, and neighbors to help out some poor soul who had no one to mow the yard, repair the clothesline, okay, or chop some firewood. Those drugs are still in my veins, and they still affect my behavior and everything I do, say, and think. They are stronger than cocaine, crack, or heroin. And if today's children had that kind of drug problem, America would be a better place to live. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Dick. Wonderful perception, and what a great evening. But before we conclude, we have a special presentation and remarks from the president of the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame, chairman of this committee, and Heidi Anderson's second-tier guy. Because Heidi is the person behind the scene. Anyways, Randy Anderson. Randy?
Thank you, Dick, for your comments. I wish you had told the Ted Williams story, and maybe you will afterwards. If you get a chance, ask Dick to tell the Ted Williams story. You're going to pee your pants. It's that funny. Okay. As you know, Dick was here in 1968, 69, and 70. And thanks to Russ Dietrich, who had a copy of the 1969 Jamestown Falcons program that had Dick Berardino on the cover. We have reproduced that program, and we're going to present that with Dick tonight. Let me just read what it says about Dick Berardino. Dick's hustle and baseball savvy is again proving valuable to manager Jackie Moore in handling the 1969 Falcons. Berardino was sent to Jamestown by the Boston Red Sox to aid Moore last season and proved to be such a strong addition to the managerial and coaching staff that he was asked to return this year. Dick started his pro baseball career in the New York Yankees system in 1958. He batted .378 at Modesto wearing a Harris tweed sport coat. Oh, no, that part's not in. And the following 2 seasons, he was at Greensboro and Binghamton, where he met his wife, of the Eastern League. Berardino moved up to Double-A ball at Amarillo, Texas in 1961, where he had his best season. He batted .301, hit 21 homers, and led the entire league in RBIs with 95. He scored 103 runs. He also led with slugging percentage. That club won the pennant, and 2 of Dick's teammates were Joe Pepitone and Jim Bouton. Dick's later tenure included Richmond of the International League, Indianapolis of the American Association, Spokane of the PCL League, and Columbus, Georgia of the Southern, where he ended his playing days. He then turned to managing the Yankees rookie team at Sarasota, Florida, and Johnson City, Tennessee. He won the pennant at Sarasota and finished 3rd at Johnson City. And then he arrived in Jamestown. So Dick, if you'd come up, we'd like to give you this plaque from the 1961 Jamestown Falcons ball. You go tell a story, I got some more. He's going to tell the Williams story. It's that good.
All right. Real quick, I don't want to take up any more time. Ted Williams, Charlie White in a room with Ted Williams, and there was a gentleman by the name of Jim Bagby who was a utility infielder on that club. And he was kind of a character who, when he talked, he kind of talked like he was talking through his nose. So it was kind of funny way he talked. They were playing Detroit. It was a 6-6 game in the 9th inning. Ted had already had 2 hits, including a home run. And the bases were loaded, and Freddie Hudson was managing the Detroit Tigers. And Hank Greenberg was playing first base. And Bagby wasn't in the game, he was on the bench. And he wanted to bring the infield in to cut the run off at the plate because it was a tie game. But Hank Greenberg didn't want to come in on the infield grass because Ted was hitting. And Ted could hit the ball pretty hard. Ted was young, and he hit some pretty good shots. And Hudson kept telling him to come on in. Now Bagby's watching all of this happening, you know. And as Hudson comes up to the top step and weighs in, Bagby kind of edges up to the top step of the visiting dugout. And finally, Greenberg relents, and he comes to the infield grass. And now Bagby sees this, and he says, "Oh boy, Hank," he says, "keep coming in, keep coming in. You want to look like me and talk like me? Keep coming in."
True story. Stay here, sir. Stay here. We You also, you met Scott Kinberg earlier today from the Jamestown Post-Journal.
Right.
Scott went through the archives of the Jamestown Post-Journal, and uncovered a picture that we would also like you to have, Dick.
Oh, God, this is...
This is
Oh,
you,
oh,
Jackie, and Sam Mealy.
Oh, thank you so much.
This
for
is
that.
from Scott and the folks at the Jamestown Post-Journal.
Oh, thanks so much.
You're not done.
Sam Mealy, by the way, is not doing too well, and Sam's like 92 years old and is in a nursing home now. I talked to him just the other day and told him I was coming here, and he said, oh, say hello to those guys up there. He says, I love being up there when he was with the Red Sox, so hopefully Sam will do better, you know.
One more quick story.
Yeah,
Your friend Russ,
yeah.
he's a collector. He's a saver, which means he doesn't throw anything away. Well, I don't know if June is making him do this but whatever. Russ is starting to let go of some of his memorabilia. I'm using that term nicely.
Okay.
Some of his stuff, he's donating to the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame, and we're preserving it and recording it and all of that stuff. Well, the other day, Russ comes in with armloads of baseball uniforms. Just armloads. Drops it off. I go, Russ, what do you got here? He says, stuff. Stuff, he says. It was under my bed. He says, it's now we're going to have it down here. I said, well, help me look through it. Let's see what it is. So we're starting to look at some of these uniforms and so on. One of the uniforms had a Major League Baseball patch on the sleeve. It said Major League Baseball 100 anniversary. Well, Russ and I start thinking 100-year anniversary of Major League Baseball was 1969. 1969. So now we're looking at this picture. We go, wait a minute. That's a Jamestown Falcons uniform from 1969. Russ has got a uniform. We go, this is really cool. Dick Berardino's coming to town, and we've got 69 Falcons uniforms. Yeah, I bet he'd like to see one. So now Russ gets out of Jamestown Falcons program. He says, let's look at the roster. Let's see who was on the team that year. Let's see what number did Dick wear in 1969. Well, here's a roster.
Oh, jeez. I don't remember what number it was.
Jackie Moore wore 25. Dick Berardino, coach, wore number 1.
No way. Did I have number 1?
Number 1! Right there. That's according to Russ Dietrich.
Great, thank you so much.
Stay there.
That's
Russ, do you have any extra luggage I could use?
Dick Berardino's actual Jamestown Falcons uniform from 1969. Thanks to Russ Dietrich. I was going to say you're only a 40. There you go.
Thank you so much. That's
Thank
great.
you, Dick.